is Messi! It is the cleanest of clean finishes from the best on the planet.
It's time for the biggest sports stories.
Liverpool, the champions of Europe, are top of the world.
The biggest interviews.
That such a great spectacle is ruined by such thuggish behavior.
And all the analysis right here.
He's the one player that has the arrogance to think that he can play in any stadium in the world and any pitch in the world in front of any player in the world and take them on.
Every weekday, it's my sport, it's your sport. It's ZiFM Sport. Let's join the team for the biggest show in the world of sport on ZiFM Stereo. My station, your station.
It's a very good evening, Zimbabwe. It's a Monday evening. That means one thing. It's a review show. We're reviewing the weekend that was. And this one is special because our Warriors were in action and their coach, Zdravko Logarosic, is disappointed that his team lost the opening match of the African Nations Championship, CHAN, against host Cameroon on Saturday, but appreciates their effort under the circumstances, going there, not having had a lick of football for nearly a year. Our boys losing and going down 1-0. And the team that's going to review that and everything else on the show are Mike Madoda, Chris Midzi, she's back, Alice Munjira is here, and me, Barry Manandi. Our producer, of course, is Sean Tafirenyika.
We'll take you around the world in 60, beginning in Galway. Joe Root is backing his England side to keep improving after they completed a 7-wicket win over Sri Lanka on day 5 of the first test. In Hawaii, Kevin Na birdied 4 of his last 6 holes to snatch a one-shot victory and 5th PGA Tour title at the Stoney Open. And in New Orleans, Drew Brees threw 3 interceptions in what is rumored to be the final game of his NFL career as the Saints were knocked out of the playoffs with a 30-20 divisional round defeat to Tom Brady and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
We'll then take a bit of a breather with our play of the day. Today's Manic Monday, so don't miss out on what DJ Baz is going to pull out of his mix. And then we'll kick off the Castle World Football Report, where news out of England is that Ole Gunnar Solskjaer is saying that his United side didn't deserve to win at Liverpool after the Northwest derby ended in a goalless draw. In Italy, Serie A Internazionale coach Antonio Conte has played down the significance of the 2-0 win over champions Juventus last night. And news out of the Bundesliga in Germany is that Thomas Muller set up 1 goal and scored a second-half winner as Bayern Munich struggled past Freiburg 2-1 to end their opponent's 5-game winning run and extend their lead at the top of the table by 4 points.
But first and always is our power player today. It's Manic Monday, so we call upon Blackpink. This one is called Love Sick Girls.
The Warriors, the Chevrons, the Cheetahs, the Mighty Warriors, and the Sables. From the pool to the track to the field, we are Team Zimbabwe. The Home Front. Local sports news and analysis.
What a power-packed edition of ZiFM Sport that we've got for you. Don't forget, we're going to be looking at the Warriors' defeat to Cameroon in the opening game of CHAN, and then in the Castle Lager World Football Report. I'm sure a lot of you want to hear our thoughts on that Northwest derby, which ended with honours even at Anfield after Liverpool failed to break down United. But before we get there, let's give you some local sports news, starting with cricket, where Zimbabwe Cricket and the Afghanistan Cricket Council are still to agree on dates for the series between the two countries scheduled for next month in Oman. The series consists of 2 test matches and 3 T20 internationals. The director of cricket for Zimbabwe Cricket, Hamilton Masakadza, said the dates originally suggested by the ACB were too close to the announcement of the sporting ban in Zimbabwe made by the Sports and Recreation Commission. The biggest concern for Zimbabwe Cricket under the current lockdown is getting local players enough preparation time for the tour to Afghanistan. We move over to boxing, where Revai Madondo is set to become the first Zimbabwean women's boxer to feature in a boxing series in Dar es Salaam, Tanzania, dubbed The Rumble. The series is slated for the 29th of January and is being organized by the global boxing stars who want to empower boxers whose plight has been hampered by the COVID-19 pandemic. The tournament organizer from Global Boxing Stars, Jeremy Bean, is upbeat that boxers from Southern Africa will bring flair to the Rumble in Dar. And I guess the big question, Chris, is that have they got their permission from the SRC to travel? Because if you're talking about things that have hampered sport, and COVID-19 pandemic is one, then they might find that the SRC is perhaps a bigger impediment than the pandemic.
Definitely. Look, the SRC obviously needs to regulate everything that's happening in terms of sport. Our cases are really high at the moment. So if there's anything that's going to be an impediment, it's actually probably getting that proposal through and making sure that it goes past the SRC.
Well, let's hope it does. Let's wrap it up with motorsport news, where Zimbabwean racing driver Axel Jeffries has paid tribute to his UAE-based GPX racing team after celebrating one of the biggest wins of his motor racing career in the grueling 2021 Hankook Dubai 24-hour endurance race. The Hankook Dubai 24-hour endurance race, which was held at the Dubai Autodrome Racing Circuit on Saturday, is one of the top events on the international motorsport calendar, boasting one of the largest grids in racing. Jeffries, a resident racer who knows the 5.39 kilometer track of the tarmac quite well, played a pivotal role in the win as he held off all challenges to bring the car home, taking the checkered flag for GPX racing.
Hi, I'm Warriors coach Zdravko Logarušić, and you are listening to ZiFM Sport.
Sports with a difference.
The lion roars. The warrior beats his drum. Battle lines are drawn in the jungles of Cameroon. It's your Chan 2021 report on ZiFM Sport.
Baya, the rallying cry of our Warriors, and we want to hear what your thoughts are on their performance on Saturday evening. Why don't you get in touch with us on all platforms at ZiFM Sport. Now let's pick apart that opening game of Chan 2021, or is it Chan 2020? Warriors coach Zdravko Logarušić is disappointed that his team lost the opening match of the African Nations Championship Chan against hosts Cameroon on Saturday, but appreciates their effort under the circumstances. 9 months after it should have started, Chan finally kicked off with the indomitable Lions, beating Zimbabwe 1-0 in Yaoundé. Solomon Banga scored the match winner in the 72nd minute as the defender showed good agility to score with an overhead kick off a free kick. Now the Warriors starting 11 very quickly. Ariel Subanda was in goal. Ian Nakati at right back. Centre-half pairing of Carlos Muvurume and Peter Mudua. At left back was Talent Chamboko. The midfield consisted of the holding midfielders Richard Hachiro and Shadrack Nyawa, while the in front of them played Ronald Chitio, Leroy Mavunga and Paulo Govere. Wellington Taderera operated as the lone striker up front, and indeed cut a very isolated figure, Alois Bunjira, because it seems like Loga employed a very long ball tactic with a very low block.
Yeah, I was very disappointed, to be honest, when you look at Zimbabwe and the size of the players that we have, it doesn't work. You know, when you have small players, you play the ball on the ground. You play until you took them because they are nippy. So play nippy football. If you think they are nippy, play nippy football. Now, why do you then take small players like Chitio, Chadera and them, and they lead your striking post, and then you start belting the ball forward for them? What are you expecting to get out of it? I just don't understand. People might talk whatever but I still say that as a coach, you need to get your tactics right. We spoke about it before the match on Friday, that there's talent in that team. There is talent in that team, but they need to play football. The few moments that they try to play football, probably the last 3 minutes, they try to knock it around. You could actually tell that there is something in these boys that can come out. But that long ball situation, it doesn't work. It doesn't.
Yeah, and I think, Barry, it probably goes down to the fact that these guys didn't prepare. And what do I mean by they didn't prepare? They didn't work enough on themselves, their tactics, their approach, and coming up with a style that would have suited the players that were in camp. Remember, we talked about the haphazard nature of Logarušić's preparations in that he turned December into a month of trials where the Warriors were playing anyone and everyone who could afford them an opportunity. Bulawayo Chiefs even drove all the way from Bulawayo to come and play the Warriors. And they were rewarded for their efforts by having a couple of their players drafted into the squad. So it seemed that whoever we played, or whoever the Warriors played against in the month of December, then they ended up with players being called up to the national team. And then there wasn't enough time for Logarušić to actually say, okay, now that I've assembled these players, what's the style? What's the approach? What are the tactics? Because at the time that he intended to do so, COVID ran riot in the Warriors camp, resulting in a number of casualties, where, of course, no training then was permissible or was allowed or was appropriate in those circumstances. And I think that's one of the reasons why, Barry, Zimbabwe failed to play football in that opening game. And then Logaris sort of like went to trying to play a basic defensive plan, where he had that low block, then he had the long ball, trying to hit space and trying to release the likes of Leroy Mavunga. But it just didn't work, because if you take a look at the Cameroonian, in terms of size, in terms of agility, in terms of speed, they had our beating. They were bigger, they were faster, they were stronger. So the long ball was never going to work.
It was never going to work. And just going off of what you said, Mike, a bit earlier about how the players after the COVID incident in the camp, you could tell, I think, within the first 15 minutes of that game, that these players were not used to playing with each other. They didn't know each other. The play was incredibly disjointed. And that's also a result of the fact that there was a lot of movement. There was a lot of picking apart of the squad before they actually went. So these players were not used to playing together. They didn't necessarily know each other. And you can see it when footballers instinctively know what the other player is going to do. There was absolutely none of that we saw in that match.
Guys, you're all referring to the fact that the Warriors should have played like this, should have played like that. But as a devil's advocate, and I think we all agree that Logarisic's tactics were for us to sit back, let them have the ball, and then try and hit them on a counter through a long ball once we were defending, and hopefully something would stick for Wellington at the top of the field. It didn't happen. But in truth, Alois, was Loga wrong to try that tactic? Because number one, he didn't have time with this team, because obviously COVID ravaged the team, and he wasn't able to then properly set out his stall, as it were. So he went for the cautious approach. Can we blame him, Alois?
Perry, if you are planning to go for that cautious approach, go get the bullets and the ammunition for that approach. You know already that this is the approach that you want to use. So go with the weapons that you want to use for that approach. You can't go for and want to shoot the aeroplane in the air and to go with a pistol. No, in an anti-air.
But Alois, to cut in, Alois, and then I'm going to ask you, Mike, to respond to it, because I hear you grunting and agreeing with Alois vociferously. If you look at it, he go with the ammunition. He did go with the ammunition. You look at it, he set it up in such a fashion that he didn't have. Look at the left channel. He had two left backs in Pao Govere in front of Talan Chamboko. Those guys are two natural left backs, and I'm sure if Kader Amin was fit, you'd find one of the two with Kader Amin on that left channel, meaning that he was already showing that he wanted defenders, people who could mark more so than play.
Yeah, Barry, but even when it comes to marking, you've also got to realize that at some point you're going to have the ball. And then it comes down to what do you do when you have the ball? It's not just about marking
you can't
and trying to keep Cameroon out. When you then do get the ball, what do you do with it? And so many times you saw it with Peter Mudua, who I thought was absolutely fantastic at centre-back for the Warriors. You know, every time you won the ball, Peter Mudua has played as a holding midfielder for Highlanders. In fact, he cut his teeth as a midfielder. So here's a boy who knows how to pass the ball. He knows how to use the ball. He knows how to move with the ball. But look at what Peter Mudua was doing. Every time he got the ball, what was he doing? He was trying to punt it into the corners for the runners. And what Alois is saying is this. If you're going to play that sort of game, don't expect to punt it to Pao Govere, Leroy Mavunga, or Ronald Chitio, who don't have the size or the stamina to hold the ball up well. Why are you not picking players then who can actually play in that manner? Because football is not just about defending. It's also about what you do when you do get the ball. Because how do you expect to win the game?
All right.
Exactly, Mike. That's the ammunition that I was talking about.
But I want to be fair.
Horses for courses, Barry. Horses for courses. And here's the point that Alois is making is don't go with and I say this with all due respect, but I think it paints a picture. Don't go with midgets when you're playing giants.
and they were giants, because you look at that Cameroonian captain Jacques Zois. Oh my God, what a beast of a man, absolute man mountain. But you got to say to yourself, from a tournament perspective, Chris, when you're playing, yes, you play the game, but you're playing the tournament as well. Logger clearly came out and told his Warriors, guys, go and keep them out. Let's get a draw if we can. This is an opening fixture. Let's bed ourselves in. Let's get the point, and then we'll see what we can do against Burkina Faso and Mali. And in truth, he nearly did, albeit that then that punch by Ariel Subanda for that free kick was handled by the striker, and it fell to the feet of ultimately Pango, I think it was Banga, who then scored the overhead kick. So he nearly got the draw that he wanted.
Chris, before you come in, I want to disagree with Barry to say that we nearly did it.
Yeah.
Let's not forget that Ariel Subanda had to make 3 outstanding saves.
Agreed.
Let's not forget that Cameroon got in a lot of good places, okay? The fact that it ended 1-0 is flattering to the Warriors. That could easily have been 4-0 or 5-0.
That's why Ariel is there. That's his job. He's the goalkeeper. He's a player. So he did his job, and we applaud him.
But if you've employed the low block, the low block is designed for you not to expose your keeper to that extent.
Exactly.
So
if you are employing the block is to protect the keeper. The keeper is only supposed to clean up.
Just to add to what Mike is saying, you could tell right from the very first minute that we were under pressure right from the very first minute. There was no point at which you could actually think, okay, Zimbabwe was in control of this, or we had any sort of edge throughout the whole 90 plus minutes. But to say that his plan almost worked, I think is a bit flattering to Logarsic.
You see, Barry, Bez,
yeah.
You see, the other problem that when you talk of ammunition, see, it doesn't start from the tournament alone. It starts from the whole football industry in Zimbabwe. We are getting it wrong somewhere. Our recruitment. We are not going out there to actually get those players that are suitable, to recruit them, to develop them. Our development is not that. We are flattered by nippy players, skillful players, but we don't focus on the basic efficiency of football.
Alois, look at what we did. Look at what we did. We left out the likes of Frank Makarate, the captain of Ngezi Platinum Stars. He's got size, he's got agility, he's got speed.
Yes.
We left out the likes of Devon Chafa, big boy in midfield who's got experience, can compete aerially, and has played in the CAF Champions League with football. FC Platinum. He's got the experience. We left out players of that nature. For what? To accommodate guys like Leroy Mavunga and Ronald Chitiyo and King Nadolo. Come on. Those guys are never going to cut it against the big and quick West Africans.
Mike, I know
Thank you, Mike.
We want to talk about the tournament as a whole, but before we do that, I just want to get your thoughts, Mike, of the two, let's call them debutants, because I know there were some players as well who were performing for the first time in Warriors colours, but certainly the debutants were Shadrack Nyawa and Paul Govere. Shadrack Nyawa, of course, of Bulawayo Chiefs, and Paul Govere of Golden Eagles. What did you make of their performances?
I thought Shadrack Nyawa was hard-working. He's an effort guy in central midfield. You know, he tried his best. He's not polished, and by that I mean that he doesn't quite have a pass on him. But he works effortlessly throughout. So I thought, in terms of a debut in a difficult game with limited game time over the past 12 months, I thought he had a decent showing. However, his decision-making, Barry, left a lot to be desired in that there were so many times, for example, where you would have Paul Govere on the left flank. The passing channel was open and he could pass the ball in that direction. He chose to turn in and go into traffic, and more often than not, it resulted in the Warriors losing the ball and turning over possession. And whenever we turned over possession, you notice that Cameroon transitioned very quickly and were always in and around our box very quickly. So I thought his decision-making could have been better. As for Paul Govere, for a Division 1 player, Barry, who has never played at this level, I thought he acquitted himself decently well. I thought tactically he was on point. Otherwise, he wouldn't have played 90 minutes. So the fact that he played 90 minutes means that in terms of doing what Logarsic expected of him and what was wanted for the team, it meant that Paul Govere was certainly doing that. I would love to see him play with a bit more confidence. Listen, why I say that is because some of his passes were under hit. You know, there were 2 or 3 times he sort of like beat his man, but then he got the pass wrong. He fluffed his line. So I think that's going to come with more confidence as he wears that shirt, as he gets used to playing football at this level, at this intensity. I think he can get better.
All right, so that is the assessment of the ZiFM Sport team of the performance of the Warriors on Saturday evening. There was another game that evening, and it was in the Group A where Mali took on Burkina Faso, and Mali beat the Burkinabe 1-0 after a goal from Siaka Bagayoko to go joint top of the group with Cameroon, whom they meet next on Wednesday. Zimbabwe will take on Burkina Faso in that evening's game, and that game becomes a must-win for Zimbabwe and indeed Burkina Faso, because both countries haven't registered a victory in the tournament so far. Yesterday's results, it was Group B, it was their turn. DRC beating the Congo in a Congo derby, DRC prevailing 1-0 over Congo, and then Libya and Niger played out a 0-0 draw. Tonight's matches, it's Group C. Morocco and Togo are currently underway. They're playing at the moment, and then later on this evening it's Rwanda taking on Uganda. You got to say to yourself, Alois, very briefly, Cameroon has shown that they're well capable of hosting a tournament of this magnitude, because that opening ceremony was something to behold.
Yeah, it was really nice. You know, it was really nice. I think they actually did their homework. You know, you remember that the ones had the problem with CAF, and I think this time around they wanted to show that, you know what, we've got this, we can do this, and so far so good. They've done it very well, and it's looking good. And you know, the involvement of Samuel Ito as well. I've seen him running around and everything. I think he is somewhere in there giving his tidbits, advice, and everything. And for them to actually come together, I actually think that there is a lot of involvement with the football people around there that are making this thing a success for Cameroon. It's actually looking good.
Mikey, is that something we miss here in Zimbabwe, where we don't integrate? We see it with Australian cricket, most definitely. They integrate their former players. Now we're seeing Cameroon integrating their former players. I understand other players as well are involved in the tournament. We don't do that often here.
No, we don't, Barry, and it really is a weakness on our part. And Cameroon really do it well, Barry, at so many levels. I remember when I was in Gabon 2017 for AFCON, you know, Cameroon was taking part in that tournament. Their legends were everywhere, all over the hotel. You know, the likes of Joseph Antoine Bell, the likes of Roger Miller, they were all there. Samuel Eto'o, they are all involved in an official capacity, mind you.
Right.
With their association.
Yes.
So they're not traveling at their own expense, even though they can afford. Right. But their association has realized the importance of having these legends in and around the squad to motivate, to inspire, to talk these guys through a tournament. We don't do that. Right now, I'll probably ask the question, are any of our former Warriors right now in Cameroon? And the answer is probably no. No.
And that's a sad indictment on the way in which we're doing things. Come on, Zifa, you can do better. Alois Bunjira's number is 0772 31. No, I'm kidding. Zifa, get in touch with Alois Bunjira. Make sure he becomes an ambassador, and other legends, of course, of the Zimbabwean game. CHAN 2021. It's underway. We are part of that tournament. We need a win against Burkina Faso on Wednesday. We say, go Warriors, go.
Hi, this is Mike Madoda, and you can catch me and the team for all the latest breaking news out of the world of sport, local as well as international, on your favorite station, my station, your station, ZiFM. We are Z-Team on ZiFM Sport.
Z. Alcohol may be hazardous to health if consumed to excess. The operation of machinery or driving after the consumption of alcohol is not advisable. Not for sale to persons under the age of 18 years.
Castle Lager is more than just beer. It's pure liquid gold, crafted from the finest local ingredients to deliver a taste that is somewhat dry, somewhat bitter, but never sweet. It's the taste that stood the test of time. It all comes together with a castle.
International Sports News Roundup, where the world comes out to play. A
Around the world in 60 seconds. International sports news.
We begin in Galway. Joe Root is backing his England side to keep improving after they completed a 7-wicket win over Sri Lanka on day 5 of the first test. Johnny Bairstow and Dan Lawrence shared an unbroken stand of 62 to take the Tourists to their target of 74 after Root's double century had laid the foundation for a convincing victory in Galle. Meanwhile, at the Gabba, India will need to score 328 runs for victory or bat all day for a draw after bowling out Australia for 294 midway through the final session on day 4 of the decisive 4th test. We'll head over to Hawaii, where Kevin Na birdied 4 of his last 6 holes to snatch a one-shot victory and 5th PGA Tour title at the Sony Open. Na's fast finish saw him close out a 5 under 65 with a final hole birdie enough to take him to 21 under and edge ahead of Chris Kirk and Jochen Neiman for victory. And in New Orleans, Drew Brees threw 3 interceptions in what is rumored to be the final game of his NFL career as the Saints were knocked out of the playoffs with a 30-20 divisional round defeat to Tom Brady and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers early this morning. Earlier, the Kansas City Chiefs held on for a 22-17 victory over the Cleveland Browns. On Saturday, the Green Bay Packers beat the Los Angeles Rams 32-18, and the Buffalo Bills booked a place in their first AFC Championship game for the first time in 28 years with a 17-3 victory over the Baltimore Ravens.
The Castle Lager Premier Soccer League, La Liga, Serie A, the English Premier League, the Bundesliga. It all comes together with the Castle on the Castle Lager World Football Report. All the rivalry.
Here is Harry Kane for Tottenham. Oh, what a goal! A classic derby goal from Harry Kane. Catch him if you can.
All the stars.
Oh, back here's Liverpool 2 in front. Talk about impudent. Talk about improvisation. Talk about Sadio Mane.
And all the game-changing moments.
And Raheem Sterling rattles it home. And once more, City are in front in a trice.
All the updates from the Premier League on ZiFM Sport.
Lots and lots of exciting matches in the biggest and most exciting league in world football, the Premier League. And here are your weekend results. There was a 5-goal thriller in the Black Country Derby, which saw West Brom emerge victorious over Wolves at Molineux. Leeds United were upended at home by Brighton 1-0. Similar result in favour of West Ham over Burnley. Fulham going down to Chelsea 1-0. Fulham having to play the second half with 10 men after a horrendous tackle and on Azpilicueta. Leicester City underlined their Champions League credentials with an impressive 2-0 victory over Southampton. Some might say they're even dark horses for the title. And Tottenham are back to winning ways after recording a 3-1 victory over struggling Sheffield United. Jose Mourinho would have been happy about the clinical efficiency of his attackers in that game. But all eyes were in the northwest of England, where the Northwest Derby was taking place at Anfield. Liverpool hosting Manchester United. Manchester United coming into this game at the top of the table. Liverpool having been edged out into 3rd place by Leicester's win versus Southampton. There was plenty to play for, especially the pride at stake between the different sets of fans. But in the end, honours were even. It ended goalless. Let's hear from Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, who says that his team didn't deserve to win at Anfield.
I don't think we played well enough. We didn't impose ourselves on the game, especially first half. I think we grew into the game, and towards the end you felt, yeah, it's here for us to win. And we create 2 massive chances and 2 brilliant saves by the keeper. We can play better than this. We know that. We can be more composed. We can have the ball more. We had to defend really often, and I thought we gave the ball away too often. Maybe some moments we miss, you know, when Marcus makes his runs in behind. Maybe sometimes we don't pass it every time he runs, and sometimes we missed it when he should have had it. So a couple of things that we need to improve on.
Alois Ole Gunnar Solskjaer coming out there, and he's saying that United didn't deserve the points, but you've got to say he'll be happy with the 1 point that keeps them at the top of the table.
Yeah, of course, Mike. The 1 point was actually good. You know, like sometimes when you're planning for the season, when you look at the games that you'll be playing, I think Manchester United at Anfield is one of the matches that you would have ticked. We can do with a draw here, you know, as long as you avoid defeat. So I think he's happy. Of course, there was a time that Manchester United could actually have snatched the win towards the end. But honestly speaking, a draw, I think he would take it. Any Manchester United fan would take it, considering the fact that they were 3 points ahead of Liverpool anyway. So it means that they kept them down. Of course, Man City following them, but I think that is a draw that they would have taken it any day, anytime, anyhow. Even if they were the ones on top of the situation at the time, even if they were the ones with 70% possession, they would still have taken 1 point from Liverpool at Anfield, because that's always a very difficult fixture. So I think he's comfortable. Of course, he's disappointed that they could have done better playing-wise on the field. It could have been looked better and prettier, but it wasn't. But 1 point is still good enough.
Chris, I want to hear your thoughts, not just as a pundit, but also as a Manchester United fan, to say that were you slightly disappointed with the approach from Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, if you consider the fact that United were cock-a-hoop, a good run of results, lots of victories, lots of goals coming into this game. Liverpool, on the other end, hardly scoring and their confidence at an all-time low. This is perhaps the perfect opportunity to play Liverpool and try and get United to assert themselves over their rivals.
I think it was disappointing, not even just as a Manchester United fan, but as a football fan. I think when you took a look at the fixture, everyone expected big billing, a back and forth, a really intense game. But Manchester United almost just came to defend, and it made it a bit of a hard watch. It was a bit of a boring game, if I'm completely honest. And look, in as much as he wanted to walk away with 1 point, I think because of the run of results that Manchester United is on, they're sitting at the top of the table, and this was the opportunity to actually ensure that, you know what, we're at the top of the table because we deserve to be here. It's not an anomaly, it's not a fluke, and they would have been able to assert themselves quite cleanly over Liverpool, but they didn't manage to do so because they had a very defensive approach and it was extremely cautious.
Let's talk about Liverpool. Their manager Jurgen Klopp has come out, Barry, and he has said that, listen, qualifying for the Champions League is the most important thing this season for the defending Premier League champions. Let's hear from him before we get to hear from you, because this sounds very much like mind games.
For me, it's not too important where are we in the moment. It's important that we have points and that we are around this group. We spoke now to Paul about the fight for the Champions League. So that's the most important thing, and for that you need points. So we have them. We are in the middle of a bunch of group of teams which fight for this spot, and that's what we have to do. That's the job. It's not about if we don't become champion, then it's not fun anymore. So that's not like it is. So we just fight for everything, and I saw that tonight again. Most important thing is to qualify for the Champions League. I know how difficult it is. Yes, you are right. That makes it, this season will be a tough race for the top four.
Barry, the champions are just 3 points off the pace. They are in third place. They are well placed to actually defend their title. Yet Klopp is talking about qualifying for the Champions League.
Yeah, what he's trying to do, I think he's trying to remove a bit of pressure off his players, and also look, albeit that it sounds like a concession speech, that he's conceded the title to his rivals. What he's trying to do is circle the wagons, let everyone start talking about United, City, Leicester even, rather not talk about Liverpool, so that he can sort out the problems that he's got. What problems does he have? He's got attacking problems right now. His attackers are not delivering the goals that they ought to. They're not making the decisions in the final third, in the incision phase, that they ought to. They're making the wrong sort of calls, and so consequently the goals have dried up. He needs to sort that out, but he needs silence and a bit of quiet for him to sort that out, and that's what he's looking for.
How important is the return, Barry, of Diogo Jota, who's supposed to return at the end of this month to this Liverpool attack that's run out of goals?
Critical. Look at the man's form before he pulled up lame. He was on a run of 5 goals in 7 matches, I think, if I remember my statistics correctly. And that sort of form is the one that's gonna get Liverpool over the line, because of the runs that he makes, especially now with the fit again Thiago, with a fit and firing Shaqiri for the first time in a long time. Those are 2 very creative players. God forbid that Fabinho is able to move back into midfield with possibly one or two of the central defenders coming back, I think Liverpool will begin to create a lot more, but you can only create because of movement in front of you. And the front three aren't moving enough. Jota has the answer. So it's critical that he comes back at the end of the month.
Well, let's stay in the northwest of England, Alois, but let's go to the blue half of the city of Manchester. And whilst we've been guilty over the last 2 months of talking about Liverpool and talking about Manchester United, very little attention has been paid to Pep Guardiola and his City side. And almost very quietly, unassumingly, they have reasserted themselves, recalibrated, crept up the table to a point where they are now almost in prime place to pounce. Man City are looking good. Man City are the form team in the league right now, and they look like they can get even better.
Yeah, Mike, when you look at Manchester City, anybody who is looking to win the league championship, looking at Man City, you get scared, like really scared, because they are playing good football. I was discussing with my cousin when we were watching Manchester United versus Liverpool. The game was boring. We were talking about it. Then I was like, if you want to enjoy football, wait for the next game. Wait for the next game against Man City versus Crystal Palace, because those guys play good football. You don't have to be a fan. You don't have to be a fan of Man City. You just want to enjoy good football. They do play good football, and they're now clicked, like you are saying. They are now in top condition. They are right there. They can pounce. On Wednesday they're playing, and they've got a chance to go tops. And I'm sure they're going to win. They're going to go tops. And once they get up there, it's going to be very difficult to actually stop them, because they are a mean machine right now. What is dangerous about them is when they click, they score goals, and all members of the team score.
And Chris, one of the reasons why they're a mean machine right now is the form of John Stones. I mean, this is a guy that a lot of people wrote off over the last couple of seasons, but right now he is looking the best defender in the league, and he's the reason why Man City are winning matches. And for him yesterday to score 2 goals from the back just underlines his resurgence.
Underlines his resurgence, and it's always great, especially when you have a team that's also now coming up the table they're also making a resurgence up, and you have a player like him who's able to do what he needs to do with the team in terms of his defense, but to also go ahead and score goals. Absolutely incredible.
There's action tonight, Monday Night Football in the Premier League, will see Arsenal taking on Newcastle at the Emirates.
From Rufaro to Barberfield, Mandava to Nyamunga, all the perfect moments in the Castle Lager Premier Soccer League come together on ZiFM Sport. The Nerazzurri, the Black and Blues, Inter Milan.
It's Romelu Lukaku, and it was never in doubt. He's a beast at the best of times, but this season he has become a monster.
The Giallorossi, the Yellow and Reds, AS Roma.
Velotti has a go! Tremendous hits! That's what he's capable of.
La Viola, the Purple Ones, Fiorentina.
Franck Ribéry seals a glorious win for Fiorentina with a sumptuous goal at San Siro.
The Bianconeri, the Black and Whites, Juventus.
Ronaldo seals yet another 3 points for Juventus.
Tough yet colourful, the best of Italian football on Z.
Your results in Serie A out of Italy looked like this over the weekend. Bologna 1-0 victors over Hellas Verona. Torino and Spezia playing out a 0-0 draw. Sampdoria 2-1 victors over Udinese. Napoli cruising to a facile victory over Fiorentina. 6-0 it ended to the Neapolitans. Crotone 4-1 winners over Benevento. Sassuolo and Parma playing out a 1-1 draw, and Atalanta playing out a draw, but this one was goalless against Genoa. The key matches of the weekend, Internazionale taking on Juventus, was an absolute humdinger, largely because of the Nerazzurri, that's Internazionale. Nicola Barella scored 1 goal and set up another to help secure a 2-0 victory over champions Juventus and send his side joint top of Serie A while putting a major dent in Turin's side's title hopes. Now, Inter Milan coach Antonio Conte played down the significance of the side's win over Juventus last night.
È una vittoria importante, sicuramente una vittoria importante perché è ottenuta contro la Juventus.
It is important to win against Juventus.
We respect a team that dominated for 9 years and want to do the same for a 10th season in a row. It was also a test of maturity, considering that we lost last year. I asked my players to feel the blood in these kinds of games, in sporting terms, of course. There are not only 3 points at stake, but something else. We were good. Perhaps the disappointments of last year made us stronger. But as I said, one swallow doesn't make a summer. So let's keep our heads down and work hard.
Antonio Conte, play it down all you want, but that was a key victory, and you could see how Inter celebrated that victory last night. It meant so much to them, especially to go top with their city rivals AC Milan, who play tonight.
Yeah, we talked about the fact that if you need to beat Juventus to the Scudetto, you have to beat Juventus. And one of the things that's been happening over the last couple of seasons is that the teams that have been trying to challenge Juventus, when they've played the champions, they've come a cropper. And we thought that the same could happen because we saw Juventus beat AC Milan a couple of weeks ago. But in this game last night, I think I called you, Barry, and I said, my goodness, these guys are playing well. This wasn't just a lucky 2-0 victory. They dominated Juventus. It could have been 4 or 5 because they had some really good chances. And key to this victory, Barry, is Barella, who you mentioned, Brozovic, and Arturo Vidal. That midfield totally dominated for Inter Milan.
Yeah, that midfield was fantastic last night, Alois, and you add to that the attacking prowess through Romelu Lukaku, who was at his bullying best last night, as well as Lautaro Martinez. I mean, look, it was a team that was up for it and ready to try and go top. So, Alois, you got to say that Inter is looking good.
They are looking good. They are looking good, and what I like about Inter is the arrogance. It's the arrogance of the players. They are so arrogant and confident, and they, like you use the word bully. You know, that's what Lukaku does. He is a bully, and he is so confident. I think he's playing with that air. I think he's playing with Manchester United at the back of his mind. You're gonna see me. I think he's driving. I'm telling you, I think he's driving.
Well, Manchester United are a distant memory for him and Ashley Young, because they are well primed to make a title charge in Italy. 2 goals from Luis Alberto helped Lazio earn 3-0 victory over third place Roma in the City derby on Friday night, with Simone Inzaghi's side up to 7th after a third Serie A win in a row. Like we said earlier, AC Milan travel to Cagliari tonight, and with the hope of going top all by themselves.
Alcohol may be hazardous to health if consumed to excess. The operation of machinery or driving after the consumption of alcohol is not advisable. Not for sale to persons under the age of 18 years.
Castle Lager is more than just beer. It's pure liquid gold, crafted from the finest local ingredients to deliver a taste that is somewhat dry, somewhat bitter, but never sweet. It's the taste that stood the test of time. It all comes together with a castle.
Horsepower unmatched. Torque to beat the best. Speed unrivaled. Sleek and easy on the eye. Let's get behind the wheel of football engineered to perfection. The Bundesliga, made in Germany.
Let's take you to Germany for Bundesliga results from this past weekend. Union Berlin with a 1-0 win over Bayer Leverkusen. Cologne and Hertha Berlin with a 0-0 draw. Werder Bremen with a 2-0 win over Augsburg. Thomas Müller set up one goal and scored a second-half winner as Bayern Munich struggled past Freiburg 2-1 to end their opponent's 5-game winning run and extend their lead at the top of the Bundesliga to 4 points. Barry, if you take a look at that game, they managed to win, but a bit of a grind to get that final result for Bayern Munich.
Doesn't matter. Hansi Flick will tell you now, it doesn't matter, because in truth, Bayern Munich, after being knocked out last week out of the DFB Pokal, the Cup, their FA Cup as it were, I think it was just a case of let's steady the ship, let's carry on, get the things that we need to do right. And I think that's what this past weekend was all about for Bayern Munich. So 2-1, they'll take that, they'll take all 3 points against a Freiburg side, honestly, that are decent in themselves and handy.
Hoffenheim and Arminia Bielefeld also drew 0-0. Wolfsburg and RB Leipzig 2-2 draw. Another 2-2 draw on the cards was Stuttgart versus Borussia Mönchengladbach. Eintracht Frankfurt emphatic 3-1 win over Schalke 04. And Borussia Dortmund had to come from behind to rescue a 1-1 draw against struggling Mainz to remain in 4th place on the table. Alois, if you take a look at the last 5 or so games Borussia Dortmund has played, they're recording a bit of a patchy run of results. What do you think accounts for this?
I'm not sure. I think probably it's about experience. I don't know, and also because some of their players they are wanted by other teams. It could actually affect the players. It could actually affect the team. And Erling Haaland is in the news. Teams want him. They also have Jordan Sancho. Teams want him. It unsettles. It unsettles players as well. These are still young players, and when they start hearing all those things, it kind of disturbs the whole team. And obviously, the team, they're looking at their options. But it's actually for me, when I look at it, I look at Borussia Dortmund as a team that has got a lot of youngsters, not much experience, and then that moment when Bayern Munich are winning, it starts affecting them. They start thinking, are we going to catch up with those guys? Are we going to catch up with those guys? I think it's all to do with psychology of football when I look at it.
Young players though they may be, they still need to climb up this table from that 4th place position. Ahead of them, Leverkusen in 3rd, RB Leipzig in 2nd, and of course, Bayern Munich sitting at the top of the table.
The league that makes football oh so beautiful, where artistry and strokes of genius are the order of any day, where the game is played with a smile and the little master creates his magic.
It's Lionel Messi!
All the news from the Spanish La Liga on ZiFM Sport.
Let's wrap the show up with a bit of news out of Spain. Lionel Messi sent off for the first time in his Barca career in the closing stages of extra time as they lost 3-2 to the Athletic Club of Bilbao in the Spanish Supercopa last night. And for Athletic Club, that victory bringing a 3rd Supercopa title and their first silverware since they claimed the same trophy in 2015 with a 5-1 aggregate win over Barcelona. Elsewhere, there was Copa del Rey action and your results: Almeria 5-0 over Alaves, Leganes beaten by Sevilla 1-0 at home, Sporting Gijón beaten at home as well by Real Betis 2-0, Valencia also victorious on the road at Alcorcón, and Tenerife beating Villarreal 1-0.
All right, those Copa del Rey results bring an end to the show because we're out of time. We'll be back tomorrow for a fantastic Top Hit Tuesday show. Don't miss it. May God richly bless you. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it. Manande, out.
And it's Messi! It is the cleanest of clean finishes from the best on the planet.
The biggest sports stories.
Liverpool, the champions of Europe, are top of the world.
The biggest interviews.
That such a great spectacle is ruined by such thuggish behavior.
And all the analysis right here.
He's the one player that has the arrogance to think that he can play in any stadium in the world and any pitch in the world in front of any player in the world and take them on.
Every weekday, it's my sport, it's your sport. It's ZiFM Sport on ZiFM Stereo. My station, your station.